Meanwhile, today, Donald Trump is firing back at the New York Times for its story that accuses him of groping two women in the past. The GOP nominee took to Twitter this morning to write, and I quote, "The phony story in the failing New York Times is a total fabrication written by the same people as last discredited story on woman. Watch!" exclamation point. The Times is, of course, just one of several media outlets to bring forward such types of stories in just the past few days. Mark Leibovich is a CBS News contributor, chief national correspondent for New York Times Magazine. Good enough to join us here. Mark, so the Trump campaign, in a daily drumbeat of its own, is now denying any wrongdoing with regard to the latest round of allegations, but more and more keep coming to light. We're also seeing that tape played where it appears that Donald Trump actually says that he'll be dating a young girl in 10 years. It's becoming increasingly hard just to parse the number of allegations here. The campaign is how defensive at this point?
I wouldn't. I mean, they're not even that defensive. They're more offensive. I mean, they drafted a letter against our newspaper, I guess, overnight, threatening legal action. He's denied everything. He's pushed back against certainly the media, against Republican, the Republican establishment, against the Democrats. I mean, it's never his fault. I mean, this is not a problem that he is taking head on with any great sort of humility or apology, but that's sort of his thing, and that's why his supporters love him. I mean, he's not going to back down, even in situations that sort of continue to just draw blood like that.
And so, you mentioned his supporters. If he can remain then, I guess, in a holding pattern of a sort. We saw many in the GOP leadership jumping off the train this past weekend. Some have actually gotten back on it in just the last 72 hours. But if he can maintain this holding pattern, I suppose it's good enough. But the real politic here is that come November 8th, he will need more than just his supporters.
Yeah, he doesn't need a holding pattern right now. He needs to make a move. I mean, I think his campaign thought that these WikiLeaks that keep coming out every day, which look like they're going to continue to keep coming out every day, are going to be a daily gift to them. And they were pretty focused on that yesterday. He was, and I thought it was pretty effective. But yeah, as soon as you have to deal with this is actually a more palpable and kind of visceral issue that people are going to pay probably more attention to, and it muddles the whole thing, and it does not help him.
Seeing a lot of people parse what we've seen thus far from WikiLeaks. There are seemingly individual revelations that could be damaging, and perhaps in any other election cycle would qualify as a daily October surprise.
Correct.
But you're also just getting a look perhaps at a politician doing political things.
You can, which is not a good thing in this day and age. I mean, Donald Trump is running as a non-politician. He could make the case that, look, this is how a politician operates. You say something privately, you do something publicly. I mean, these emails paint a picture of incredible calculation. You have at what point, 12 aides sort of going back and forth about whether she can make a particular joke about, hair in Iowa, which is ridiculous. It's not how normal kind of freewheeling people in a freewheeling time like to operate. So he could very, very, I think, convincingly make a case that this is who she is and we need something different. And unfortunately, these other things just keep getting in the way.
But as they get in the way, then, the numbers right now are suggesting, both nationally and in key battleground states, that she has now pushed past that margin of error. And so it would seem right now that those being polled prefer, even in this change era, they prefer calculation to the erratic, we have no idea what's coming next nature of this campaign.
Yes, exactly.
So how to obviously, that's a narrative that the Trump campaign will have to change. How to change it?
Well, you're running out of time. I mean, I think the last debate will be fascinating. I think, unfortunately for him, it is the last debate because I think he was pretty effective last week, and he did sort of stop the momentum against him. His big problem is women. I mean, it's been his problem just for several months now. If you look at the polling, I mean, Republican women, suburban women. I mean, this is a key demographic. They've been sort of the swing demographic. It's the majority of the electorate.
And stories like this that we hear every day are not going to help.
Not good at all. And even I've seen some recent polls that say that after the tape on the bus the other day, his support among evangelicals in Wisconsin, I guess, kind of hemorrhaged. So, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of constituencies that this can tap into in not a good way.
You spoke with Secretary Clinton last month for your latest piece in this week's New York Times Magazine. You write at one point that she's, quote, stubbornly cautious and on script, banking on the notion that real-life concerns of voters will win out over spectacle. Do you think at this point there's a belief in her campaign, let's just run out the clock?
I would say that that's one way of looking at it. I also think that it's just politics 101 to stay out of the way when your opponent is, seemingly just sort of, doing something day after day after day is going to be troubling to people. I mean, he's attacking his own. He's focused on Republicans. He's focused on the media. I mean, she's one of many people that he seems to be going after with guns blazing.
He's running against his own party as much as he is against her.
I mean, he, like this entire campaign, he has dominated. He has just taken all the oxygen out of the race. That's been his thing. I mean, the whole race has revolved around him. In a way, it's allowed Hillary Clinton to hide, which in a weird way, when you're that well known to begin with, it's a bit of a godsend. And I think that's continuing up through the very end, it seems.
It's hard to believe that this election cycle would actually surprise any of us at this point, but boy, the October surprises are
It has been fascinating.
Plentiful.
We're not even halfway done with October yet.
It's a remarkable thing. Mark Leibovich, let's get you to that train.
Thank you, Josh. Great to be here. All right, man.